Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. This is the third year that Martin from Knit 365 blog and I doing collaboration for a Mystery Knit Along by Stephen West. And the first year, if you've been watching my channel, I did a series that I called Humans of Westknits, where I interviewed participants of the Knit Along, as well as Stephen himself and some of his test knitters. This year, I decided to do a pre-game show, a compilation of interviews of different yarn dyers. Some of these yarn dyers are official dyers for Stephen and Penelope, and you can buy their kits at Stephen and Penelope store. And some of the dyers just do independent kits. And so without further ado, here are some of the dyers who participate in this year's MKAL. Guess who I have here? Kitey is back. Welcome.
Hey. How are you doing? It's so good to speak to you again. It feels like forever.
Yeah. Well, you were the 2 years, 3 years. Oh my God. It's like time is just like goes like this. So you were, first of all, you were one of the first people I interviewed on Fiberchats. You were one of the original people I asked. I was like at that time,
Yeah.
met. And then you participated in Humans of Westknits. So you know what Humans of Westknits is. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, it was my idea 3 years ago when I first time participated in Stephen's MKAL to interview the participants of this event instead of just Stephen. By the way, I did interview Stephen as well. So like if you want to check out that interview, it's somewhere there in Fiberchats. But this year, I decided to start the MKAL, this pre-show sort of, and interview some of the dyers who participate in this event. And some of these dyers are official dyers for the MKAL, but then there are a lot of people like you who just make kits. Some people create custom kits, some people just create kits for their audience. So let's talk about you. How are you approaching this event this year?
Well, this year I have approached. I'm really busy with other dye things right this month. Like I've got a retreat in a couple of weeks' time, and I've got kits to do for that. And like Advents have caught up with me, and so there's a lot of dyeing going on at the moment. So this year, rather than having some kits that I would normally put out a couple of colorways and say, right, go, I opened it up as a kind of if anybody wants kits. I kind of went back to my roots a bit, where in the first year I started dyeing MKAL, I took the option of making or creating kits around what people already had in their stashes. So if you wanted for the MKAL a 5 skein kit, for example, like something like SLIPSTRAVAGANZA, where you got 2 main color and then 3 other colors, if somebody already had a couple of other colors that they kind of wanted to highlight in their MKAL, I'd dye the other colors around it. I'll dye a couple of skeins just for your main color, or I'll dye some of the alternates. And together we kind of collaborated on kits. Right. And so that's what I've done this year. And I've picked up a couple of customers where they just wanted a couple of skeins, and so it's like, yeah, fine, let's do that. Like I'll just put that color together, and you know, do you want it sort of slightly darker or slightly lighter? We have a conversation, and then that's how I create the kits. So rather than doing here's a whole load of yarn all divided up into kits that I've decided upon, I'm happy to do that, by the way, but like if people need color instruction or color sort of, you know, help, I'm more than happy to do it. But it's actually quite nice to kind of go with what people already have and what they want, because I think one of the things I've learned in the MKAL over time is that anything goes, really. I've never seen an MKAL shawl that I didn't like. Like the texture and everything is so beautiful usually that doesn't matter what color palette you use, it just looks stunning. So it's kind of that. And if you, especially the last MKAL, I added beads to mine. I've got fringing, like I went kind of to town on it. So, and even started with crochet. So it's kind of anything goes really. And I love that about it, you know?
You have already a kit in mind for yourself for this year?
I do. Would you like to see?
I would.
Okay, so I decided quite early on, because it was two colors. I've had a hankering for this kit for some time, and I've just been waiting for the right project. But essentially, I'm going to hold all four skeins up and you'll see. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Oh.
It's very not me, like non-color. Exactly. So I've literally gone natural. I use a Corridale base and I love it. It's a creamy white, but it's actually quite a bright creamy white in its natural state. There's not a great deal of yellow in this. So it's kind of a really nice contrast with black. And I think putting it with black, it looks even more white in some ways. So black and white. And then I was thinking about the mohair dare, and I personally don't like mohair very much. So I've gone with a you do you boo. I'm doing 4-ply boucle instead. And I decided on grey because I thought black and white with grey would look really good.
Right.
Then I went through a process of changing my mind over the last 2 weeks. So we then settled on black. I was going to use black boucle, and I was really happy with that. Except when I look at it, the color of black on the boucle looks different to the color on Corridale. So despite it being the same dye, so I was kind of like, I'm not really entirely happy with that. And I had a yarn show last weekend, and I dyed up this really bright orange color for some other skeins, and then kind of had a flash that actually that would look amazing on boucle. So yesterday,
that does look amazing.
It's not my color at all, Irina, is it? Like, so we're going to that.
Oh, that's gonna be, like I can't wait for the first clue now because I want to see it in your colors.
No, and the funny part was I was talking to a customer of mine. I have a custom dye customer of mine who brings me really random requests, like I need this but really pale, and can you match this color? And she'll bring me a tiny piece of yarn about yay big and go, can you match that? And it's like, I'll try. Like, I send it off, and she turned up at my stand on the weekend. She was like, it was perfect. And I was like, okay. So she said, what are you doing for MKAL? And I showed her, and it said, this is the color I'm thinking. She went, you've gone back to your koi pond. And it's kind of, I hadn't even realized that's just a koi fish.
Right.
So yeah, so that's me this year. I think I've settled. That's going with that and with that.
Oh, that's gonna be exciting. Well, yeah. I'm sort of considering using your color as well. So I bought this years ago. And
yeah,
I was sort of like waiting for a special project. Like when I bought it, I thought maybe it's gonna be some brioche, because like I was envisioning like some dark color with this as a pop in the brioche, and I thought it's gonna be perfect. But somehow like no project jumped at me, and so I had it in my stash. And my stash, if you cannot tell, it's pretty extensive collection of fingering weights, so it's perfect for
curated yarn museum. Curated yarn museum is what it is. Yeah.
But it's perfect for all the MKALs, or generally Steven's patterns, because he prefers to use fingering. And so I was like, there's no reason for me to go buy a kit when I already have so many. And this year I bought this skein from the Fiber Hustle. So Erin from Fiber Hustle started dyeing yarn like a couple of years ago, and I saw that color and I really loved it. And I was like, okay, I definitely want to work with that color, but then I wasn't sure about the second color. And then I saw that. So what's your opinion? Do you think?
I love it. I love it. It's so beautiful. That the darker sort of pink magenta, like the dark magenta sort of color, is just stunning. And I think the little colored pops in
they have the same sort of like hue to that. So I think it's gonna, so I'm like don't hold me to that. I still 2 weeks to go, right? So I still change my mind, but like I'm like
Yeah.
99% leaning towards that combination.
Yeah.
Plus, like, I mean, you know, you're like one of my favorite people in the dyeing world. So
No, I love it. And I think that's what you've got to do. It's like I said, I've never seen a color palette I didn't like. And there's some that I don't prefer as much, like they're not for me, but they still look stunning in their finished form. So I think you've just got to, like, you do eventually have to bite the bullet. But saying that, I have personally now got 3 boucles in the wings, essentially, because I could still go back to grey. I don't think I'm going to. I'm pretty much 99.9. Like, that is me in a skein. So I was, yeah, this is probably the one. Saying that, it depends on how the pop is used and whether I do it at all. Like, I might just be.
are you a fan of mystery in general? Because like I'm still not sold on the mystery idea. I love the whole excitement of community to talk about the mystery part, but like in all honesty, if it wasn't for Stevens MKAL, I probably would never do mystery. Like, are you a fan of mystery?
I'm the same. I mean, this is the only one I do like this. I did another kind of mystery one, knitting project a while back, and I got probably more than just shy of 3/4 of the way through and decided I hated it. I just didn't. It just wasn't for me, and so I frogged everything, and I managed to reuse lots of the yarn in other projects. But yeah, it's mystery's not really for me. But I have to be honest, Stephen West was the first. SLIPSTRAVAGANZA was my first MKAL, and I'd only just learnt to knit, and a dyer friend of mine said, dive in and do it, you'll learn lots, and and I'd never really looked back, and I have learned lots, and I've kind of totally embraced the kind of pace of it, and I don't care if it doesn't get finished in 4 weeks or 6 weeks, or I mean twists and turns, which I think you can see over my shoulder there. I finished that a week before Geogradient started, I think, because it sat in the naughty step for about 6 months. And then Geogradient, I finished the fringing of it on last Friday. So, I mean, just embrace it, and kind of, I had the colour sitting there for ages, and I was umming and ahhing whether I was going to add the fringing, but I decided to in the end, and I'm glad I did, because it needed it.
If people sitting at home and they have stash, right, and they trying to decide like on the approach of how to choose those 2 colors, like what would be your advice? What would you stay away from, or what you would like encourage people to play with?
The best advice I ever got was taking a black and white photo of your yarns, because then you can see that there's enough contrast in the colors when they're in black and white or in grayscale. So that's kind of crucial, I think, especially for this one, because it has to be high contrast. Now, how high you contrast is kind of up to you, because I've seen some kits where you might have like say a dark blue, and then you've got quite a blue variegated thing going on, with lots of yellow and green and stuff. And I think they'll still look stunning, because I have a feeling it's going to be perhaps a bit like Starflake was, where you had kind of contrast, but it's okay to have things that are a little bit close, and there's enough texture, and there's eye cords, and there's the brioche section or whatever that kind of breaks it up and makes it really graphic, if you see what I mean, and geometric. So I'm kind of, like I said, I don't think any color palette's wrong. Go with your colors, because you've got to love it. And don't be afraid to frog it if you're hating something, and change it. Like, especially early on. I never swatch. I always do like a lazy swatch. So I just wrap some yarn around to notebook, and just wrap maybe 6 to 10 wraps of one color and 6 to 10 wraps of another.
Yeah.
Decided to go together enough,
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. At the very beginning, I was thinking of that, and then I was sort of afraid that it's going to be like on those points when there's like too much pink, that it's going to be like too.
Oh, see, I think there's still enough contrast in there. Like the pinks are different, and I don't think things will be mulled together. That they tend not to be mulled together in a
right. Well, let me ask you something. Like, what's your prediction in the last 2 years? We didn't have any brioche at all. Do you think this year we're coming back to brioche, or do you think Stephen is just done with brioche?
Yeah, I think there might be brioche. And high contrast looks amazing with brioche. So I think there's a good possibility. I would go with maybe 70% possibility. Obviously, there's always a non-brioche option, but I learned, I think it was on shawlography that I learned brioche, and then I did Starflake in the off month. Like I'm going through a process of trying to knit as many of them as I can. I'm actually re-knitting shawlography, SLIPSTRAVAGANZA again at the moment. That was my holiday project this year. So I love doing it. And I think if there is brioche, this is a good opportunity because of the contrast.
Right. I think it's going to be like really stunning then.
Yeah, it could be amazing.
Well, you now also testing for Stephen West. And before we started this conversation, you told me that one project you didn't want to participate was the MKAL, because you actually want to be a participant.
I actually want to do it. Yeah. I'm totally sold on the mystery part now for Stephen's projects, like for the MKAL, because as I've said to you before, like I did SLIPSTRAVAGANZA as my first MKAL. I've learned loads doing the MKAL. I've learned loads, and it's the one thing that I'm not afraid to dive into because the videos are so helpful. His philosophy around, embracing your pace and take your time, and if you mess up the count, if it's easy enough to frog, yeah, by all means frog it, but just add a stitch here and take a stitch off there. And I embrace that philosophy completely when I'm teaching crochet and other things. So yeah, it kind of works for me. So this is the one thing in my calendar that I'm not giving up I'm not going to ever test knit. I don't ever want to test knit this because I like that feeling. And I am one of the people who receives the pattern and dives straight to the end of the video to see what we're looking at. Like,
me too.
It's still a secret to me. You don't have to knit each stitch as a secret. It's kind of like, oh, right, we're doing this. How motivating is that? Now I've seen it, and then I'm just, yeah, I love that. So I'm trying to convince Martin to jump to the end of the video.
I'm actually admiring Martin when he's like, no, I'm gonna knit as I watch.
I don't even know how he does it, quite honestly, but yeah.
And my guest today is Adele Gardner. She's the dyer behind Vegan Yarn in the UK. Welcome to my channel, Adele.
Hi, good morning.
So let's talk about you and your journey a little bit before we start talking about MKAL and what you're preparing for it. Were you a knitter before you were a dyer?
Yes, I started knitting when I was about 5 years old. My grandma taught me. Made a little pink scarf. I think it went from about 20 stitches down to 10, back up to 30, but she still wore it. A little baby pink scarf. So I was about 5 when I started knitting, and then I started dyeing maybe about 8 years ago.
Well, what made you wanna dye yarn?
I must shout out to Mothie and the Squid. I absolutely fell in love with her yarns. I saw them one day and I fell absolutely in love. She had some tie-dyed sock blanks, and I didn't even understand how a sock blank worked. I thought it's just absolutely amazing, but the wool aspect of it was something that I couldn't work with, being vegan and wanting to not use animal fibers. And I just couldn't find anything at all in the marketplace that was cotton that looked like that sort of Indie Dyer, speckles, beautiful variegation, plenty of cotton, but I wanted something more exciting, so I started dyeing for myself. And then I'd have people say, oh, can you do one for me? Can you do one for me? And then COVID hit, and suddenly I was at home all day, and I thought, right, let's make a website. Let's give it a go.
Well, when people think about vegan yarn, they probably first thing that comes to mind is cotton. But if you guys gonna go on Adele's website, you might be surprised to find things like hemp or pineapple or seaweed. Tell me a little bit about your discovery of different vegan fibers.
Well, it all started, I actually got in touch with somebody for some packaging, and they were talking about seaweed dyes, which are absolutely fantastic. And then the seaweed yarn was sort of born out of that. Just, it's such a versatile material, you can do so much with it. And we thought, right, let's have a seaweed yarn. And then luckily that seemed to take off quite well, and that's given me sort of the resources to then, as the years have gone by, expand into other materials. Initially, a lot of these fibers were used for more of an industrial purpose, so it was very easy to source a nettle or a hemp that was very rough. But to find something that was actually smooth to knit with has taken a year or two of constantly looking at the process and seeing what can be done differently, seeing how we can refine that process.
When you choose a fiber, like what aspects of it are you searching for?
I think for me, initially it's the sustainability. We did, when we first started out, we had bamboo, and I absolutely adore bamboo. It is the vegan silk, it's so soft, but there are a lot of environmental concerns around it, and I couldn't really in good conscience be a part of that industry and give money into that industry and promote it. So unfortunately, even though it is beautiful, my conscience says, no, we can't use bamboo, just as it does no, we can't use wool or Angora. So sustainability is one. And I must admit now that we're down the line and we've tried a few fibers, it's novelty. The fact that you can just make fiber from anything. Like, you can go out into your garden now and take the nettles, dry them out. You can go to your bathroom and get a cotton wool bud, spin it into a little bit of yarn. It's just, it's all around us. And I think once people sort of see it in that way, that I've got things in my garden I could make into fiber, it really opens up your mind to that curiosity of, well, what else can be done? What else can be done?
Well, a lot of people are also allergic to wool, so that's a wonderful alternative to work with natural fibers that are not wool. How would people know like what works for what kind of garment? Because like this wool, we sort of know that like for if you want a drape, you want to go with alpaca. If you want something good for cables, you go with certain breeds of sheep, right? How would you know, or how do you educate your consumers about what your fibers are good for?
I must admit, it is really hard to know, and especially with us being, for the majority, an online shop, we do occasional wool shows, but generally you want to squish your yarn, you want to touch it, you want to feel it, you want to know the texture, how dense it is. So I do try as much as I can on the website to give an accurate description of, well, this is great for drape, but this isn't very warm, this one's a little bit scratchy, so that I am giving a really honest idea of it. But I am very happy to just send out samples so that somebody can have a swatch, wash it, feel it next to their skin, and see if it is right for the project before you go investing in like a whole cardigan's worth of yarn. Because to be honest, what one person finds soft, another person might not find soft. So it is important to get out there and have a stall so that people can come and try it. But if people can't, I'm more than happy to send ones out so that people can understand it, because it is very, very difficult.
Right. Tell me a little bit about your discovery of Stephen West and his Mystery Knit Along. When did you first learn about that?
That was something I'd see people on Instagram when they've done their finished shawls, and because his designs are so unique, they really stand out. So the sort of all the different design elements that he puts into them, I just thought were fantastic. Had a look on Ravelry, and some of the designs are a bit, no, I wouldn't wear that. No, that's a little bit too complex. But some of them are just, they're perfect for everyday wear, even though they have got that nice edge to them. The Slippy V jumper, for example, absolutely stunning. I must admit, I'm not a big shawl knitter, but I do like, say, the painting bricks blankets, the more simple designs.
Right.
But
And
I love his ethos, and it's so lovely to see him succeed, and to see over the years how it's gone from online patterns to your own shop to your own wall brand. It's something that everyone can aspire to, I think.
right. Well, when did you first created kits for MKAL?
It started about 2 or 3 years ago. We were having requests for it and people asking, which I completely understand, would this yarn be suitable? I mean, luckily we do have a beautiful Tencel that is exactly the same yardage and meterage per 100 grams that is used quite commonly in the kit. So that makes it really easy to switch one into the other. It's a bit more difficult when it comes to the mohair.
Right.
So vegan substitute for that is quite hard unless you're going to use an acrylic. But over the years, people have asked for the kits. And then I thought, well, the other thing about online shopping is you can't always tell when something goes together when you're looking at it on a computer screen, because it looks a different color on every device.
Right.
And I thought, well, able to pair those up for people and give people an option of these all go together would just be a bit easier for people when they're shopping, give them a bit more confidence to know these are going to go together.
And when you do your colors, is it all just tonals, or do you do some speckles as well?
I do loads of speckles. On the Tencel that we use, that I would recommend for the MKAL kits, I tend not to do speckles because it's a very, very shiny yarn. It's got a really, really shiny, it's very drapey as well, but it's got a really, really shiny finish. So I think with the speckles, it can just look a bit busy. It's very nice with a variegated yarn, and it does metal shades like your silvers, golds, bronze, coppers, absolutely pop on it with the shine. But I do like to, I've started experimenting with a few gradients. Well, the only thing I don't really do is probably fade packs. That's about it, really. I'll try anything else.
So when you put kits together, how do you go about it? Do you use your own aesthetic for the colors, or do you go into Stephen and Penelope shop and see the kits that they put together and go from there as inspiration?
I must admit, I try not to look at their inspiration first, because then if I hit one and I love it, and then I see it on their website, I think, oh, brilliant, well done. But if it was the other way around, I think I'd never know, did that come from their influence because I saw it first? So I do like to do it myself first, have a look and get them all photographed. And then I'll sort of have a look around and just see. I think having a look around afterwards tends to add different choices. So maybe I might do something with some metallic tonal shades. And then I'll look on the website and I'll think, do you know, I haven't done anything in brights. There's some bright sections here. So it'll definitely, it's kind of, I start, go to them, they give me a little bit of inspiration, I go back to it. So it's all a bit evolving.
Right. And when you go to Stephen and Penelope and look at different kits, you'll notice that there is a lot of different price points. Some of them are like super luxurious yarns that can run you close to like 300 euros, and some of them are more reasonably priced. Where do you stand with your kits in that spectrum?
Our kits, I offer them at a price where you get the 4 together, and that will be cheaper than buying them on their own. So it's like a little bit of a discount, because I appreciate that they still have to buy the pattern as well. But I like to think that we're at the lower end of the market, but I don't want to say lower because it depends on the budget. To some people, my price point is still very luxurious, and I completely understand that. But I would be coming in at £50, so I'm not quite sure. Is that about 60 euros these days?
Right. So that's for 4 skeins.
Yeah, for the 400 gram skeins.
Right.
And I've put an offer on for all of them. So if you were deciding to do a different make along from one of the previous years, and you needed 4 different colours instead of 2 of each like it is this year, then you can still use the offer as well. Because I do appreciate a lot of my sales actually pick up halfway through the MKAL, because I think there's quite a lot of people that are sort of waiting for the first couple of clues to decide if it's worth the investment and they're going to like it.
Right. And it's that, and it's also sometimes people see posts and they feel like they're missing out and they want to join as well.
Definitely people that have never heard. That's how I got into it. I'd never heard of Stephen West, and I started seeing some of the make-alongs mid-October and was like, wow, what's this one? I think which one it was that year. There was lots of brioche in it. I know that because I definitely couldn't do it.
There was no brioche in the last 2 years, so it probably was before that. How many kits do you offer now on your website?
It's just as many as people want to make out of them, and I can custom dye as well if what they're looking for isn't available. So I guess the number's endless, really. But in terms of the actual kits that I've put together as examples that I've selected the colours for, I think there's probably about 8 or 9 examples up on our Instagram where you can look and go, right, there's a couple of shades of purple. So if you'd like to see one of the brighter shades that I've picked out that I think will go together for a sort of nice bright autumnal feel, we've got this.
Beautiful.
So we've got a nice sort of mid purple with, I love this variegated orange. It's mostly orange with some lighter orange pops and then some slightly darker orange stripes. It just makes me feel really autumnal, but also it works very well with a darker purple, something a bit more aubergine. So they were the ones that I sort of had in mind. And then we've also gone for another one, which is a different feel. So we have this one for more of a sort of cooler, Christmassy, wintry feel.
Right. It would definitely be my choice, probably.
Yeah. I think by the time I finished, it would be December, so it would be a really nice one for all the snowy weather.
Right. Well, if you had to choose one, like, do you have colors that you tend to always love the most?
When it's the Tencel, I must admit, I can't get away from the metallic tones. My favorite would be something along these lines, where you've got the...
Oh, that's beautiful.
I absolutely adore, as you can see, they've all kind of contained a purple. So I do love a purple, but these shiny, metallic-y sort of brassy tones, well, brassy in there, almost verging on a sort of fawn in there as well. There's just, it depends what light you're in. You can see about 5-10 different shades there. And I just love that idea that I think it's because I'm a 90s kid and we used to have those shirts where as you move, they changed colour. I just love that the Tencel will do that in the yarn. As you go into the brighter light, you'll get a completely different colour tone from it.
Right. What's the easiest way for people to get a kit from you? Should they just go on the website?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go on the website. We've got a section for the Tencel 4-ply. Anything in there is perfect for the pattern. You just need 4 skeins of that. The code Westknits at the checkout will give you the 4 skeins for £50 and free UK postage. If you like something that's in a different yarn weight or in a different fibre, feel free to message us and we can do that colour onto Tencel. That's no problem. We do have other yarns as well that would work for the Stephen West kits. The Pima Cotton 4-ply, that's the same meterage and yardage if you don't want that shiny feel that the Tencel's got. So there's plenty of options, and all you have to do is pop a message through the contact us or through our Instagram, and we'll get back to you, and we can put kits together to suit whatever budget or suit whatever yarn base.
Thank you. And I'm going to put all this information in the description of this video so you guys can go check out Adele's website and see what's going to catch your interest. Have you ever heard of pineapple yarn? So she has that as well. So for those of you who've been following my journey on YouTube, you know my next guest, Francesca Rosa. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
And Francesca was like one of the first people I interviewed on my channel. If you go, like it was basically back on Instagram. Back then I did the live on Instagram. So you go, like, you're the original gangster, basically. You go.
Yeah, I think it was back in 2021 or 2020 even. I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like one of the first interviews I've done. So you've been busy. I've been following your journey since then. We
Thank
talked
you.
here and there, and you've been very busy and very successful.
Thank you.
So when we first talked, you basically just started with dark omen yarn. You were like new to that. It was beginning of the business. And now you're at every festival in Europe can be found in Stephen and Penelope's store, and you're one
Yeah,
of the
about
official
that.
makers. So congratulations on your success. It was
Thank you.
really a pleasure to see you make all these beautiful yarn variations. Can we get a little glimpse into how you became the official kit maker for this 2024 Mystery Knit Along?
It's been a wild ride these past 4 years. The first two were the toughest, I'd say, because we still can do festivals here in Europe, well, in the US as well, I guess. And I was still experimenting with the dyeing of yarn and selling, which was the hardest part, which is
Right.
selling yarn, because I'm just an artisan. I'm not a marketing expert, no, nor a sale expert, but I did it. And I think that when it started to change was when I started doing festivals. I started one here in Italy, and then I just applied to everyone, to every other festivals in France, in Spain. Most of the time I was in Spain. I've been doing 3 festivals per year in Spain, one in Madrid, one in Barcelona, and I tried one in Seville. Um, I don't really know what pronunciation I'm using about Sevilla, but okay. And they've been great fun. I met amazing people, dyers who became friends. It's a good family, the yarn dyers, and it's very tight. It's really nice. I've been to Portugal as well, and because I work by myself. I try to use these occasions as vacation as well.
Right.
So I say, okay, I don't go on vacation, but at least I travel and I go see places. And basically, the thing that helped me the most was saying yes to every job opportunity, to wholesalers that never came back, that order once and then they stopped, or people that are still faithful and that they keep buying. Quantities are vary greatly. Like in Italy, the shops buy like 10 kilos of yarn and that's it. And while in Amsterdam, for example, they get hundreds of kilos of yarn. And it's different, but it's been very interesting to see myself go to places and dye all this yarn. If you could see the mess in the studio, which is open to the public, but still pretty messy. And then to get back to your question, it just happened in a festival. It was the second time I've been to Madrid. So the second edition of the Love Yarn Madrid, that I met Malia from Stephen and Penelope and her employees that came to the booth, and they bought the yarn and they liked it, and we chatted. We realized we knew each other, me and Malia, because of the times I used to work in Paris. And
For
and
those
then
of you who don't know the story of Francesca, first we'll go back and watch our interview.
yeah,
You used to work for La BNMA as a
yeah,
dyer
exactly.
before you went on your own.
Yeah, I have learned the craft back in Paris, and I've been there. I worked there for almost 3 year and a half, 2016, 2000 and end of 2019, and
Right.
then in 2020 I went back to Italy. Yeah,
So
and
back to Malia, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was a pretty cool, normal story where we chat, we talk about wholesales. Hey, do you do wholesale? Yeah, where are you based? Oh, in Italy. How interesting, that kind of back and forth. And they did like the yarn, so that excited me. And as soon as I got back home, I emailed them, and I sent her the price list and all the details of wholesale. And I think it was a month later, I was at Stephen and Penelope chatting about it, because in Europe you can travel quite
Close.
easily. And yeah, it was just an hour and a half of flight. So yeah, I spent a weekend there, and Amsterdam is really nice.
Yeah, I just was there this May. So I went with my daughter for.
Yeah, it was so great. It rained a bit, and I was staying at a hostel, so plenty of drunk Englishmen, well, English kids.
Right.
Uh, so it was an experience, but that was fun. But then I went to museums and stuff, but the most exciting part was talking business at S&P.
So when you came to Stephen and Penelope,
Yeah,
you weren't discussing MKAL yet. You were just talking
no.
about wholesale business, right?
Yeah, we were talking about wholesale. I brought luggage filled with stuff. I just threw everything I could find in there, and together with the yarn I had sent them, just to showcase everything, like all the samples I could with all the bases. We did talk about, like winter, fall collections, or spring, summer, that kind of stuff. And basically it was just, yes, anything you want, I can make,
Right.
to a certain extent. But yeah, and yeah, we talked about colors and how I work and how they work. It was interesting, because I could, just see how I don't know, is it a big business? I think it is, work, and how we can work together,
Right.
because it's still business and it's still work. I mean, I know in the podcast we talked to a whole range of the community, that the hobbyists and people who knit, and they think it's all magic and colors and sprinkles of stuff and here and there. But there's also the toughest part, which is always talking about business and how to make a living out of dyeing yarn. So yeah.
So at what point did they offer you to make kits for this year's MKAL?
I think it was right after they received the first wholesale order. Um, Now I don't remember if the talk was in the air already, like maybe we will think about this, or just wait for a couple of months and then we'll come back to you about this. But you get the email, they're like, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna finally be part of this huge yearly event, and not just trying to come up with my versions of kits for my customers here, but no, I'm gonna be one of the officials, dyers for Westknits MKAL. So it was very exciting, but I think it happened maybe a month and a half before actually having to send the yarn.
Right.
So
So
yeah.
they are the ones who decide on what the colors they're going to use for kits. They don't ask for your input on that, right?
Not this time. I don't really know how the process works. I have no idea. I just received the email with the color combinations, and I was like, okay, I'll get to work. Some I liked, some I was a little doubtful, because I don't really have a fixed set of colors I make,
Right.
or a color list I send to people or wholesalers. Uh, I just say to people, just look on the website and find what you like. You can also use Instagram, but Instagram is very tricky because you go back to 2020 and there are colors that I don't do anymore. But again, I've learned to say, oh yes, to to even those colors. And I'm like, sure, I'm gonna make them too.
When you
Um,
look at the website on Stephen and Penelope and you look at
yeah.
all the kits, there is a bunch of companies that are doing this year's kits. And I'm sure when Steven decides on what companies to use, or like when he and his team like discussing it, there's different considerations, right? Like they want to have different bases, they want to have different colors, they want to have different price points. Like there's all these things. When you look at those kits, do you feel like you stand out? Do you see like why they picked you? Or
So I have noticed the thing I noticed the most nowadays, like the last couple of days, that is the fact that they're almost all sold out. So thank you, anyone who bought them. If you're looking at me right now, thank you very much. I see that there are a couple that only do semi-solids, like pairing up semi-solids, and I don't think I have. There's only one, the one that has Wizard Robe and Pearl, who are two semi-solids that I was like, I wouldn't have put those two together, but it looks nice. It definitely looks nice, but it's not sold out. And the others are, I don't know. I think I am close to Little G. It's not Little G. Come on. It's Life in the Long Grass.
right.
I call it Little G, but because it's how I read it. But my style is closer to hers. Yeah. Theirs, I don't know. But then, and also Twisted Ambition. Yes, they're kind of the same sort of vibe, like one darker semi-solid, one lighter speckled yarn. I don't know. I think also I come on, let's be honest. My style is closer to La Bien-Aimée style, because I've learned there, and so I hope it shows in some ways. I hope it shows that I'm putting my twist on it, but I think it's also, it could be one of the reasons. I don't want to boast.
Well, if you put two
Yeah.
skates together for your own MKAL for this year, any idea what you would have picked?
I have made a couple of kits that are on my website. I like pairing everything with Void. Void is just a basic dark gray. But then I made, let's see if I have, yes, I have it. I made Dryad, which is a very bright aqua base with
That's
speckles. It has like rusty speckles and then purple and teal. These two, I think they're gonna work very well together. And then there's the one I hate the most, and that was the first that went sold out, and I think I had 5, 6, 10 people asking me to make it again, which is the Sueño and Atomos colorway. I don't know what I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well,
But
right now
I'm starting to like it.
Right now I'm struggling with picking my own kit because like I'm trying to, as you can tell, I have some yarn at home and
I have some yarn.
yeah, and I'm trying to utilize it whenever I can. So I'm trying to find the skeins that go together. Do you have any advice for people out there like myself that trying to use their stash? Like what would you look for in those two contrasting colors?
I would wait. I would wait the first clue. I always do that. I always wait for the first clue, and if I like it, then I make the mystery call, and I choose the colors accordingly. I mean, if you look at the website of Stephen and Penelope, and you look at all the kits, they all look, they all look similar with the same idea in mind, like a dark color and a light color. I would say I like to go with same families, like a dark brown with a very light one, or and yet I am talking about browns with all the colors. I talk about brown. I know some friends who are gonna say you always go for the brown, and then I never knit with brown. Anyways, yeah, choose one color you like your favorite color. There's no need to be, overly adventurous. The mystical is already an adventure by itself. So, go with your comfort zone. Go with your comfort zone, and then if your comfort zone is like, I don't know, deep red, okay, you choose your favorite red, and then you go either lighter or darker. And weird contrasts, I'm not a big fan of. Like, oh, let's make it dark blue and orange. Oof. Yeah, it's classic. Yeah, but you never know. You never know.
Right.
Uh, so, and
Oh,
also this year is two colors, so it's even difficult. It's more difficult to me than it was with last year's gradient. Um, I mean, it's easy to go gradient. You
right.
can choose any color and then maybe you can swap one for a neon pop. It's always gonna work. The two colors mystery color, I don't know. No, we'll see. But I'd say wait for the first clue.
Talk to me a little bit about your choice for the base. Like, what would you recommend people to pick or stay away from, like when it
Uh,
comes to shawls?
when it comes to shawls, personally, I like to knit with sock yarn. This year's base is the merino sock, so it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it just soaks up the color in the best possible way. The only one that beats merino sock in yarn in dye absorption is the singles. So, it's singles though. I mean, it's fun and everything, but it's still single. So, I don't know. It's not that interesting as a yarn. I prefer more structured yarn and plied ones. And the merino sock, I think, is the perfect option of all the bases I have for the mystery color. There are people that like, there's nylon though, but yeah, so what? So what?
Are you gonna be knitting this year's MKAL, or are you gonna wait for the first clue?
Ah, shoot. I don't know. I think
Well,
I
if
think
you
I have to go with the flow. I have to go with the flow and pick my my kit before the first clue is out and just wind the yarn. Just wind the four skeins. So I'm like, can't sell them now. I have to work with them. But yeah, also the base, I didn't choose the base. They chose the base. I would avoid I don't know skeins I mean bases that are like non-super wash and
like woolly wool.
like woolly wool. Yeah. But then again, as I say it, I'm like, maybe not. Maybe give that yarn a chance. Give that yarn a chance as well. Last year's Carl would have been perfect with woolly wool because the gradient helps.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much for coming back to my channel
It was a
and
pleasure.
sharing your story with us again.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you so much.
Well, Ross Taylor is back to my channel. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here again.
And when you first were a guest of my channel, first of all, I was just starting with Fiberchats, but you also were sort of just restarting with the yarn dyeing, and you were still working as a male person and then doing it on the side, like part-time. And look at you
Yes.
now, like you've been going, you are insane successful now. I'm so pleased to see your progress, and you're part of Knit Stars. You are also one of the official dyers for kids for this year's Stephen and Penelope's Stephen West MKAL.
Yes.
Congratulations on all of that. And you
Thank you.
work full time as a yarn dyer nowadays, right?
Yes, full time. And I went full time June 2022. So yeah, it's been
So
exciting.
tell me, I mean, I've been a huge fan of your colors from like when you first started, and I've been following you for years. And you're a huge fan of Steven's designs. You've been knitting Westknits for like as long as I remember since I've met you. How did you get to sell your kits there now?
Well, strange enough, we'll go back to, because Steven reached out to me after I had reached out to him months before. I reached out to him. I was like, hey, would you ever consider, carrying Twisted Ambitions yarn and Steven Penelope? And, he was just like, yeah, just send, it's a possibility. Normally we don't try to do that many US dyers because the taxes and the customs is all expensive. But he said, every once in a while we like to take one on. So, feel free to email, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't ever send that email because I was, we're our own worst enemy when it comes to like thinking that we're good enough or not. And I was just like, maybe I just need to wait a little bit and get more of the kinks all just to where I felt better to be in a position to send my yarn that way and actually get the courage to email. But I finally sent them an email. And he actually messaged me back because I didn't get a response right away. And so I was like, they're busy. So I actually ended up messaging Steven again. And then he sent me an email personally and was just like, yes, we're going to do this. And so I got in contact with one of his production managers, and she was just like, yeah, we're gonna have a purchase order to you within a week. And they sent me a purchase order. I filled the wholesale order, sent it out that way. And then I got contacted again by the product or the production manager about the surprise sock along.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to do that. And so I did kits for that, sent them their way, and then they put in another order. And I was like, wow, this is a lot, but I'm loving it, because I like to work every day. So I got that all taken care of, sent that out to them. And then they reached out to me for the MKAL. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I've always wanted to work with Steven West and be a part of Steven and Penelope. So I just felt honored, and I was like, yes, right away, I'm gonna do this. How much do you need from me? What do you need? And I'll send it your way. So that's how I got to be an MKAL dyer.
Well, when you look at those kits, right? And this year there is a lot of different dyers that Steven and Penelope are using for their kits. There's like all different price points, and there is different kinds of fibers and different colors. Like some of them are just purely tonal, like very demure, and some of them are not, right? Some of them like Twisted Ambitions yarn, very colorful and out there. When you look at all those kits, do you feel like yours stand out? Do you feel like you have your own voice in that group?
I think, to be honest, I think all the dyers stand out on their own. I feel like my yarn and Dark Omen yarn are kind of like almost not the same, because we both have different styles, but they really mesh well together. I think I love Dark Omen's yarn. I love Bird Street yarn. I love all the dyers that are in that participated this year. But yeah, no, everybody has their own style, and I enjoy seeing all of the dyers this year for the MKAL. And they all did a wonderful job.
When they reached out to you, and I know that you don't have the insight, or you don't decide what kits are going to be sold. They are the ones who decide how to put the kits together, because they know the design that's coming. They know what they're trying to achieve. Were you surprised by any of the kits? Did you approve all of them, or were any of them questionable for you?
Oh, for me, I didn't have to approve them. And I was fine with everything that went. There was one kit that I don't really care for, but I know there are people out there that love brown, and I'm just not a brown fan. So that was the only kit that I'm like, whatever, but you know, you gotta have colors for everyone. So
Well, you're friendly with Steven. Did he give you any hint at what this show might look like?
no, I didn't ask either because I'm not that person. I'd rather be surprised too, because I've already picked my kit out. I'm gonna be participating in the knit along too. So
Can you share with us your kit?
yeah. I'm still going back and forth, so this may change, you know. I change my mind on colors all the time. So, but this is what I've chosen.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I've been on a coral streak myself lately. I don't know why the corals just grab my way. You know,
Yeah.
I really like it. Well, if people sitting now and they thinking, well, like I don't have budget right now to buy a new kit because I have a stash.
Mhm.
What would be your recommendation? How should they go about picking yarn from their stash? Like, what's your advice?
For me, I have big stash. But if you have any semi-solid colors, I would throw a semi-solid in there because they're easy and then they go well with a speckled yarn. So if you have like a painterly, like splashy speckled yarn to go with a semi-solid, I think that'll look really good. Maybe more high contrast. These are all kits that are on my site. This is one from Stephen and Penelope that they picked, and this is I don't remember what it's called, but the aubergine and then Fool for You. It's a high contrast, so I think that's a really good option to go with if you have like a dark semi-solid and then a variegated yarn or a speckled yarn that's a little bit lighter. I think that's gonna go really well.
When you look at those two, right? They have the lighter color has the notes of aubergine in it.
Yes, there's little splashy speckles too in there for the aubergine. Yeah.
Like, is that important to have something matching to the semitone, like to the tonal color?
To be honest, I'm not sure because it's a mystery, right? But all the kits that I saw on Stephen and Penelope have that color story. So that's why I chose, well, mine doesn't, it's not exactly the same. So I guess it's not important. I guess it just comes down to preference, what colors you like together. But this is another kit that was on Stephen and Penelope. It's on my site. This is magenta glitz, and this was a really popular one. I mean, it has the magenta in the color or in the speckled skein. So I don't know. I think you can go either way. I don't know if it matters that much.
Did you have like a favorite kit that you saw somebody else make and you were like, oh, I should have I want to play with those colors as well? Like, does that ever happen?
I actually haven't seen any other kits that were made up besides the ones that I posted on my site and then the ones that Stephen and Penelope have put together. So yeah.
Well, are you planning to start from the day when the first clue popping down, or are you gonna wait until the first clue, see what it is, and then change your mind another 3 times to choose the final colors? How do you like work the mystery?
Yeah, so I've only done one other MKAL, and it was for the Marled Magic shawl. That's the only one that I've done because I like mysteries, but I don't like waiting for the next clue, and so I lose that, I lose that appeal of knitting that project. So I did wait on the twist and turns one. I waited for like 2 weeks before, and I started knitting it, and I was like, this isn't my jam. But this time I'm on vacation. I'll be in Nashville during the first release of the first clue, so I'm not sure. I hope to start it on October on the cast on date, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
Are you gonna do mohair dare for your kit?
I think I am going to do a mohair dare. I have this fluorange orange mohair that I just dyed up, and I think it's gonna look really cool.
That would
but
be
I don't know.
Have you done mohair dare before?
I mean, I've done it on my own little projects where I'm just like, I dare to put mohair in there, and so I just do. But I haven't. I don't know. I'm doing a blanket right now with mohair and Surrey alpaca, so I love mohair, and I just dyed a whole bunch of mohair for anybody who wants to get their
so
mohair dare on.
Okay, Rose, you're killing me. This is all my favorite colors.
Yes, I got a lot of mohair for everyone. It just needs to be twisted up.
Oh, that was beautiful.
So yeah. Look at this highlighter.
That's beautiful.
Matches my sweater.
Well, when you do mohair there, do you match the mohair to the color exactly, or can it be like different?
It definitely does not have to be. There are no rules, right? There's no rules to knitting. So I don't care if I put these two together. I know I'm going to get a different color, like a heathered effect, and I think that's going to be awesome. I love that. You know, I probably wouldn't do that with this, but you know, to each their own, right? If you want to do that, you can do that. It's your shawl.
So today I have very special guests. It's Jennifer and Harrison from Dying Cat Yarn. Welcome to my channel.
Thank you.
And you told me that it's your first time on Zoom and being interviewed.
It is actually. We've been around for 3 years, about 3 years now, and this is the first time we've ever been interviewed. So we're excited.
Tell me a little bit about the name of the company. How did you decide on Dying Cat Yarn?
We were just trying to come up with something that was kind of original, creative, outside of the box. And my husband actually came up with the name because he thought, okay, dyeing, you're dyeing yarn, Dying. The cat was kind of a shout out to my grandmother, who was one of the original people who kind of inspired me. She used to crochet, and I remember a blanket that I would always see at her house, and it was crocheted, and her name was Catherine. So we shortened that down to Cat, and then the yarn. And then our logo, again, my husband came up with that. It's like a dead looking cat, and with the needles in the back, one's a crochet needle and one's a knitting needle.
Right.
So we get some very interesting looks at our banner whenever we're at events, because people kind of they'll do a double take and look at it like, is that really needles like poking out of this head?
Well, Jennifer, you like a long time knitter, right? Like, when did you start knitting?
I started knitting. I was diagnosed with cancer in 2010 and kind of wanted to do something just to kind of keep my mind off of everything. And so I just got some yarn and got some needles and hopped on YouTube and taught myself just some basic, knitting stitches, and started doing hats and scarves and things like that. And then just over the years have progressed to pretty much making just about anything.
Right. So Harrison, you are the main dyer for the company. Tell me how you discovered yarn dyeing. Like, what gave you the idea to try dyeing yarn?
Well, originally, Mom had made this friend at a local yarn shop nearby us. She had made this friend, and she had started dyeing yarn. And I'd go over to her house with Mom, and we'd go like do whatever, right? And she'd have this little side room set up, and it had like all the dyeing stuff in there. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. Mom, can I try that? She's like, let's look at it. We'll see. Okay. And we're like, okay, well, it's not too much to get the dye. The yarn's like, we can justify the price of the yarn for right now. We're okay right now. So let's justify that price. That's fine. And then then I set up and do like 3 or 4 in my bathroom out of everywhere we could have done it. And so Mom, I made the Dying Cat Yarn Facebook page, which has now been sadly a little bit abandoned.
No,
but
TikTok, no, Instagram
the
page.
Instagram page. Sorry, what did I say?
Facebook.
Oh,
Okay.
But and Mom has like all these crafty and like knitting crochet friends on her Instagram. So she's like, oh, let me put them up here. We'll put them for like 15 or something. I don't remember, but like fairly cheap.
Right.
And we'll put them up on there. We'll see if anyone wants them. Well, it's not even 30 minutes later, and we've already sold the first one. I'm like, I like this. I like the colors. They're fun. Can I do this more? Sure.
Well, what was your learning journey? Because Jennifer learned how to knit on YouTube. Where did you learn the basics of how to dye, and how did it develop until now? Like, you are 4 years in this business. How did you change as a dyer?
I think a lot in the beginning was a lot. It was a lot of trial and error for a while. We had some things came out really funky, but eventually people bought them. So I guess people liked them, and then I was like, people really like these like kind of weird, really crazy looking ones I'm doing. Let me do those. And in addition to the other ones I'm doing, where they're like the plain normal full skeins, they're just kind of slightly variegated.
Right. And Jennifer, you're doing mostly the marketing of the company, right? Like, is that something you do for work, or was that also a learning journey?
It was also a learning journey. I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for, 27 years now. But like I said, I was pretty much shoved into doing this when we decided to start the business. So it's just get on Facebook, make the posts, get on Instagram, make the posts, get on TikTok, do the videos, all those kind of things like that. Plus, Harrison is in the Army National Guard, and he was gone to basic training in the summer of 22. And I was like, well, we'll set Dying Cat Yarn to the side till he comes back in December. Well, then I had people contacting me going, we really miss you guys, and I really wish you would do this, and blah, blah, blah. So much to my own chagrin and my own frightenedness, scared of screwing something up, I was like, okay. And so I took some yarn and went into the dye room one Saturday and started throwing some dye and some yarns into pots, and it was selling good. And we were contacted by one of our great customers who was opening up a yarn shop down in New Orleans. And she was like, I'm loving what you guys are doing. She's like, you're doing a great job, Jennifer. She said, I want to place an order because I'm opening a yarn shop, and I would love to have some of y'all's yarn in our store down in New Orleans. So Harrison was very proud of me that I was able to do that without him. So that was part of our conversations weekly, was like, how's the yarn going? Is everything going okay? And so it's just, like I said, I try to keep everything going, and I let him handle the yarn stuff, and I do everything else.
Well, Harrison, you saw the kits that Stephen and Penelope posted. When you look at those kits, and this year there is a huge variety of different dyers from a lot of different countries, and you can see some very simple tonals and some very sophisticated speckles and variegated yarns. When you think about this particular MKAL, and obviously the mystery is huge to you as it is to us, we don't know what we're gonna need. What do you imagine? Like, what would you recommend for a kit for this MKAL?
I'm not really sure because I don't knit, but Mom likes to knit, and I know what a lot of our regular customers like. So it's more like, okay, do you like blues and greens? Because then you can go find whatever you like off theirs if you want it that, but like maybe you want like this green a little bit more darker or whatever. Or it's just kind of, I like to be able to like tailor it to what they like.
So you do pretty much custom colors. So the customer would tell you like, this is what I envision, and you would dye it.
Yeah, I mean, we have some people that come to us and they're like, I would really love to do like a shawl in like this purple, but I don't like how it goes so well with this like gray or whatever. And I'm like, well, we could do like a lighter purple or like kind of a variegated purple or whatever. And I give them like some options if they're not 100% sure.
And I think that's one thing that our customers really like from us is they can sit down, not sit down, but get in front of their computer or phone or whatever and talk to Harrison and I, and we can make suggestions. Like I said, if they maybe see a picture of one of the kits that have been put together and they go, I like this purple, but I don't like, Harrison saying, I don't like this gray, or I don't like that red with it. We will go, okay, what about this? And we might be able to, it might be something that we have on hand. We don't usually keep a lot, quote unquote, on hand. Like I said, most of what we do is custom dyes, but we do have some that we have on hand when we go do events and things like that. So sometimes it'd be just as easy as sending them a picture of something that we might have on hand and asking them, what do you think about this? This would really look great with you know, a dark gray or a black, or, you know, just something really light colored, or a speckle, you know, a speckle and then a solid, I think would probably, from kind of what I've seen, you're right that there's so much of a variety of what you can do with it as far as the kits, because I've seen everything from like neon total contrast colors to a neon solid and then like a pale with little speckles, that it's pretty much, I think, open to interpretation as far as the kit, and everybody's is going to be 100% different. I don't think there's going to be any, unless somebody buys the exact same kits, that they're going to look the same. Right. When they all get done.
I think it's like, that's the beauty of your company, because people can get something very unique that they can't get anyplace else, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we started talking, Harrison brought this huge box to show us some samples. Does that make your choice more difficult for your MKAL shawl, Jennifer?
Probably. But Harrison's telling me, yes, it will probably. Like I said, last year's, I didn't start on it day of. Like I said, I work a lot, and so I have to postpone till weekends most of the time, and then everything else going on. And this time of the year, we usually try to do a couple of weekend events a month, just to kind of get our name out there and, you know, attend events and things like that. So it's whenever I can get an hour here, an hour there, and stuff like that. So I finally had mine narrowed down, and I think I finished the entire first clue, but it took me a while because I kept telling Harrison, no, go get me that color, because we needed 4. So I'm like, no, I don't like that. Leave me these 3 and take this one and bring me this. So yeah, it's a lot of it.
She kept going back and forth so much. It was
so what I'll probably do is maybe wait till that first week is over and hop over onto Instagram and go through some of those, you know, where it says the spoiler things. And I'll probably look at a couple of people's just to see what the pattern's looking like. And then I might be able to sit down and, because, you know, his shawls for the MKALs and stuff are always a big time investment. And so I think I still have this is terrible to say, I still have the SLIPSTRAVAGANZA in a bag that I'm on like the last clue. I haven't finished.
It's embrace your pace, you know.
Right. And so I will probably look at what some of the other people have done and kind of probably go from there. I think that would probably be my thing. If I go ahead and start it there, like I said, I'm off for a week for Thanksgiving. So I basically have about 9.5 days. There's 3 of us here at my house for Thanksgiving. So it won't be a huge Thanksgiving dinner, which means I have a lot of time. So I might get half of it, you know, knocked out during that week, and then finish it when I'm off for a few weeks for Christmas break. So it might be done by the end of the year.
Harrison, can we get a little peek into some goodies in your box?
Grab that teal. Oh yeah, that one. Hold that. Yes, sir. So we have about 4 or 5 different weights of yarns. Like we said, ours are open to whatever weight the customer, they contact us. They go, hey, I need a fingering weight. I'm going to do the Stephen West MKAL. And then we go from there. So we've got everything from fingerings to lace weights to mohair, bulky, super bulky, worsted, and DK and sport, which my favorite is a sport because we have a baby alpaca that's 100% baby alpaca, which I love. But we live in Arkansas, so it's not conducive to wearing this if I make a sweater, because I'll be sweating in it. It doesn't get cold enough for that. I have one that's got a little mohair in a sweater, and I have to wear it with layers and then take it off when I get to wherever I'm going because it's too hot. So here's one of ours, and this one is a sport. Here, set it back over there. And here's one of ours. And we just finished, we did an event a couple of weeks ago, and the new Beetlejuice movie had just came out recently. So we decided we were going to make up some Beetlejuice kits for shawls. And what we did was we did 1 solid skein of black. We did 1 solid skein of a fluorescent green. Now, what I mean by fluorescent green is it glows under a black light. And then the green, the third skein in the kit is a black and the green together. And so anytime anybody purchases one of those kits from us, we always include a black light flashlight for them to go in. And we were showing this to them, the customers at the trunk show that we were at a couple weeks ago, and they were just like, oh, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So we throw those in one of our subscription boxes one month. We did we did the blacklight flashlights, and we put a little note. We put notes in there, and we told them, look, when you get your yarns, take the little flashlight, go into the bathroom, turn off the lights, and shine the light. We have my DMs were blowing up going, okay, that is the coolest yarn I have ever seen. So
it might be a cool idea for this MKAL as well, to have one fluorescent.
I think that would be fantastic. We could throw it, and everybody's talking about there's the mohair dare. So see, you could do your colors and then do a mohair dare, and we could do it in a neon glow in the dark, because there's a green. What are the glow in the dark?
Green, pink, yellow, orange, and I want to say a purple.
That are all glow in the dark.
So how can people order from you? What's the easiest way to contact you?
The easiest way to contact us is through Facebook, and just go to our page. Again, I'm usually the one posting stuff business-wise, unless it's a customer contacting us about something. They can just shoot me a DM on there, or if they want to put a post and say, I'm interested in the MKAL, can you send me more details? However they wish to do it, and we can get back. We usually get back to people within 24 hours. I usually am on it just because I have my phone and I answer my phone response stuff better than other people.
And so it's kind of broken.
And so I tend to try to get back to people and, let them know what's going on, shipping information, and, orders and things like that. And if it's yarn that we already have in stock, usually we ship out within about a week or so. Right. It usually takes us a day or two, depending on the size of the order. Probably for the MKAL, it's 4 skeins. So probably dyed up in about 2 days. And we want to make sure it's all dried up and everything. Probably if you ordered it within a week and a half, you should have it. So anybody that's interested can still get it and have it ready to go for the start date.
Right. Well, I'm going to put all your information in the description of this video. So if you guys want to try one of the yarns dyed by Dying Cat Yarn, please send them a message and get that kit. And I hope you guys can join us for the Humans of Westknits Zoom one of the days and just say hello. I'm sure people would love to see you there. Thank you so very much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to get to know you a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And today I have Ted with me. So I bought your yarn years ago. I still have a sweater quantity of gray yarn that I bought from you that I'm planning to use for a very special project one day. How do you approach kits for this MKAL? How do you go about it?
Well, we get a brief. You get a brief in advance of the actual first clue starting. And Stephen has said that you've got 4 skeins of yarn and you've got 2 pairs of contrasting and complementary colours. So I kind of work from that to begin with. And I have quite a varied dye style, which and I try to make that appeal to as many people as possible. So I've got some kits which I've put together that I have from a yarn show that I did at the weekend, which I can show you to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. Yeah, and there's also, I've got a number of other kits which I don't have prepared, but they're on my website for sale, and hopefully, I can get them done in time if people are interested in buying them. But if we start with the first one, so I've kind of looked at the vibe that I've been getting from some of the other dyers as well to gauge some of the color palettes, but it's autumn, so hopefully you can see these colors properly. So I've got this lovely burnt orange color here, doing everything in reverse. So I've got this lovely burnt orange color, and then a variegated green and orange to match it. So that was one kind of autumnal idea. And then if we move on to a slightly different color palette. We've got some blues. So we've got a dark, inky sort of fountain pen ink colored blue, and then a variegated sage, teal, blue, and peach colorway in this skein of yarn here. The next one I've got is for those people that like greys, and so we've got greys and sort of a toffee coloured brown. So this grey has got elements of this. I'm trying to do it backwards. No, this side. That toffee colour is speckled throughout this grey yarn as well. The next one, we just go totally different, and so we've got a really dark green and a highlighter yellow.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Maximum contrast, but they're still within the same color palette, complementary colors. That sort of blue, green, yellow side of the color palette. And then the next one, if we take the same dark green, but I've teamed it up with a gold color this time, sort of a goldy green color. So again, we seem to be very much in autumn in terms of a lot of these kits, but you know, it reflective of the time of year, I think.
And what I find interesting with MKAL specifically, like Stephen is gravitating toward very bold, very like neon colors lots of times, but then you see other people using something more subdued and it has completely different look.
Yeah, it's interesting how much it changes the vibe of the finished fabric completely. If you can still choose contrasting and complementary, but if they're very close to each other, it changes it entirely into something much more subtle and harmonious than something which is that, you know, start at opposite ends of the spectrum, if you like.
Well, if people picking yarn from their own stash, like what would be your recommendation? How would you approach it? And what would you recommend to stay away from?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think that I would try and keep it to the same yarn base if you possibly can, because I know that, you know, we get exposed to all different dyers that have different yarn bases. So try and keep the yarn base the same if you can. If you can't, then, you know, it really doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter. But that would be my first suggestion. And then I think you have to kind of go with what your own personal color palette is. Some people are very bright. Some people are totally the opposite and wouldn't even dream of even going anywhere near that kind of, you know, bright pinks and neons and all those kinds of colors. So I think you have to kind of go what you feel comfortable with, but push it slightly. And I think that's the idea where the dare comes in, is that you can push it. So you've got this kind of lovely teal blue and ocean colors here.
I love that.
But you could so that's quite conservative for a lot of people. But you could introduce something like this as your dare to go with it, and it totally changes every element of it altogether. It picks up some of the flex in this yarn base because this is on a neon. This is a neon fleck.
Right.
Yeah. So I think really go with what you're comfortable with. Go with what you're used to, but try and stretch your boundaries, if you like.
So are you participating in this year's MKAL?
I will. I've still not decided what colours I'm going to do yet.
I was hoping you're going to share your kit with us.
Well, it'll most likely be one of these. I'm kind of drawn to this autumnal orange and green one that I showed you earlier. But I'm also in love with this one.
That's beautiful. Well, when it comes to the MKAL, what's your approach? Do you wait until the first clue comes out, go to the end, see what it looks like, and then decide on colors, or do you like commit to the mystery from get-go?
In the last few years, yes, I think I've seen what other people have done to start with before I've decided what colors. In the days before I was a dyer, which isn't that long ago really, but I used to kind of go gung-ho and I'd have everything ready and I'd make sure that I was finished the first clue by the time the second one came out. But now things have changed, and so I'm so much more relaxed with the pace of knitting this MKAL and any MKAL in the past. But yeah, I think I'll probably reserve judgment until I see what's going on before I make a decision.
Right. When you look at the kits that Stephen and Penelope put together, what do you think? Like, are there kits that you like? What were they thinking putting those together? Or do you really love the aesthetics of all the kits?
I love the aesthetic of all of them, and there's a huge contrast between the dyers in the choice of colours that Stephen's put together. I think my favourite probably is one of the neon kits from Punk Rock Unicorn. I think they're an incredible dyer, and that particular kit that Stephen's put together is incredible. It's amazing. But similarly, you look at some of the Life in the Long Grass subtle heathery colours, and they're also equally beautiful. So I think, you know, going back to what I was saying about what's your comfortable space, think about that first, and then, you know, push it slightly and see what you come up with.
Do you have a favorite base for shawls, like something you gravitate in your own use?
Well, my kind of regular yarn base that I dye is a merino nylon mixture, because it's got the stability, and the structure of the nylon helps keep it. But I think I love a merino single more than anything else. I've done some things in merino single in the past, and it just feels so lovely and soft when it's finished and blocked, and it has a beautiful drape to it and a sheen that you don't seem to get with a lot of the other yarn bases. I think the nature of the single ply means that you can take something really quite pale and preserve it over dyeing it, so that it's like you've got a jewel shining out through underneath through this darker color. And so yeah, I think a merino single is my favorite. This is a where's it gone, the blue one? This is a merino singles kit. So that's going to feel amazing when it's finished.
Yeah. Well, Martin and I often joke that in Stephen we trust, and when it comes to mystery, there's very few designers out there that I would be like blindly jumping into the project without knowing what it is that I'm making. What it is about Stephen's designs that attracts you?
I think there's a mixture of simplicity, and also some of the elements within it will be complex ideas, which is kind of enough to sustain you when you need that kind of brain activity. And then other times when you need to do, you know, Stephen's known for his long rows, for example, you know, when you need to do a 900 stitch row in front of the television one evening. So I think that there's a mixture of both kinds of things. There's enough interest in a particular stitch pattern, like in the last one where you had the drop stitches. But similarly, you know, there are other patterns like, let's say, SLIPSTRAVAGANZA, where you've got lots of nice rows of garter stitch, which you can just do a bit of knitting without thinking too much about it. Other times it's great because it focuses your mind on that particular bit of knitting. No other intrusive thoughts can get in, and it's good for a cleanse.
Right. Do you have any predictions about what the show might look like? Whether shape?
None whatsoever. I'm kind of thinking, apart from thinking that it's going to be quite bold in its design because of the graphic that Stephen's used for his presentation so far. But that's about it. I have no idea. I don't know if we're going to get new stitch elements. I particularly remember Texture Time from about 2017 or 2018, when he introduced the Latvian braids and got people engaged by trying to get them to guess what the new technique was going to be. So for me, that was great. It was before I was dyeing yarn, so I loved doing that project. But I've got no idea. I think Stephen is one of these designers that it's probably not worth trying to speculate too much, because his design style is so diverse that you never know what you're going to get, which makes it, which what is the attraction, I think.
Right. Are you a fan of mohair there? And do you think you're gonna do mohair there for your?
I am a fan of a dare, but I'm probably going to do it in alpaca instead, because I find it less scratchy on the skin. So that's been, alpaca is my dare this year. I might try and find something to go around this.
Right. When it comes to adding either alpaca or mohair, what's your advice on that? Like, should it be matching in hue? Should it be something that makes it lighter, darker? Like, how should people go about it?
I think that it should be, we've got the basic brief, which is 2 pairs of complementary but contrasting colours. I think it should be something which is the total opposite side of the colour wheel to your main character of the piece, if you like. So for me, if I was like the kit that I showed you with the blues, I would choose maybe that pink or maybe an acid yellow colour, because it's still complementary, but you know, it's so different. My only worry about something that's close to the main colour is, or main colour palette, is that it would get lost, and I think I'd quite like to see the difference, if you like.
Are you a fan of fringes?
No.
Me neither.
No, I've seen lots of the last year's MKAL where people have done tassels and fringes and things, and I don't know, I'm not sure my patience can extend that far, but it's not an aesthetic that I like anyway, so.
Well, I'm so glad that you're part of this MKAL, and I'm gonna put all the information how people can buy one of those beautiful kits in the description of this video. So if you guys wanna go check it out and buy it for this year or for your stash, maybe you wanna make another one for a loved one after with the MKAL. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you for asking me. Thank you.
I loved seeing some of the familiar faces and getting to know some new to me dyers. I hope you enjoyed this compilation, and if so, please hit the subscribe button and give a like to this video. The next Humans of Westknits Zoom is going to take place on September 29th at 12 p.m. Eastern, and I'm going to put the Zoom link and the passcode in the description of this video. I hope you can join Martin and I. We're both going to be at that Zoom. And we're going to talk about our final yarn choices for the MKAL. Thank you for listening today, and until next time, happy crafting.